workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time, but the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maple, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtandj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms. People across Alabama are hurting. Elected leaders have bailed out corporations while sending only a one-time cash payment to working families despite record unemployment and a public health crisis. Hometown Action is fighting for working people across Alabama to build inclusive and sustainable small-town and rural communities. Hometown Action demands that Congress pass a people's bailout that expands health care, sends cash payments to families, and invests in green jobs to restart the economy. Now is the time to act. Learn more at www.hometownaction.org.
Hey, you listen to conservative talk radio all week. Why don't you try something different for a change? The Majority Report with Sam Cedar is a 5-time award-winning daily left-wing political talk show. We go live every weekday at 11 a.m. Central Time on our YouTube channel. You can find it by searching for The Majority Report. We talk about the news, we take libertarian callers, we have debates, we interview guests on topics ranging from the post-Civil War Reconstruction era, child poverty, capitalism, the intellectual dark web, and more. And that's all just within the last month. If you want to hear what smart, progressive political talk that is occasionally amusing sounds like, then you need to tune in. And you're always welcome to call in if you want to hear the correct opinion on any given topic. I will give it to you. Tune in to The Majority Report at 11 a.m. Central Time on YouTube or later wherever you get your podcasts.
WVNN. Depend on it. You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
The time has come for America to hear the truth.
We are going to stand with them, and not only are we going to fight for their rights, but we're going to stand up for our rights here in our state, in our homes, and in our community.
One day longer, one day stronger. One day longer, one day stronger.
Because the future of labor's rights in the United States of America is not going to be decided in the courts. It's not going to be decided in Congress. It's not going to be decided on talk radio, and it sure is not going to be decided on Fox News.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
Good morning, Tennessee Valley. This is the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host and fellow agitator, David Story. It is Saturday, January 16th, 2020. We are broadcasting live on 2021. Hey. 2021. Man, I need to change my script. We're broadcasting live online and on the radio on WVNN in the Huntsville, Decatur, Athens listening area from Athens, Alabama. A recording of this program will play tomorrow, Sunday, January 17th, 2021, on the great WGOL in Russellville, Alabama.
Can we just start over?
Today we're talking to Mindy Isser about her most recent article for In These Times magazine titled, "The Union Members Who Voted for Trump Have to Be Organized, Not Ignored." We'll spend the rest of the show dissecting Amazon's newly published anti-union website and taking calls. All this and more on today's Valley Labor Report. I appreciate you bearing with me through that. I am, contrary to my appearance if you're watching on the stream, I apparently don't have it together this morning. So
Holy hell. What a morning. What a morning.
David, you were rubbing off on me. David left his PC at home this morning, and so luckily he gets here really early, and so he got here, realized he didn't have his PC, and so he had to go back like 45 minutes home and then come back. Luckily he gets here really early, because if I had left something at home, I would have just been SOL, because I get here like 30 minutes before the show starts, maybe. So, and I live 35 minutes away from the studio, so I would have been SOL. But, thanks for tuning in, folks. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're doing throughout the week, get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. And you should really go follow our Twitter, folks. We are like 4 followers away from having 1,000 followers on Twitter. Look, the Twitstagrams, the Twit chat, the
Twitterverse.
Yeah. So you should follow us there. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, then you can search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there. And we also clip segments and release it throughout the week. So if you don't want to watch the whole show, just one topic seems interesting to you, you can go back through our catalog and see the different things that we've talked about. We also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So to see if we are on your listening platform of choice, you can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. We have a website now. You can go there and check out our work as well, thevalleylaborreport.org. And finally, if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then you can consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/thevalleylaborreport.
Yeah. Believe it or not, the corporations are not coming out of the woodworks to help sponsor this show.
Right.
So
and you can tell from our advertisers. Our advertisers are unions, local progressive nonprofits, and union law firms. So and occasionally like other progressive podcasts. So we're really thankful for the advertisers that we do have, but listener support really goes a long way. So today we are talking to Mindy Isser. She's an organizer and a union member of the Communication Workers of America, Local 1180. She is a writer out of Philadelphia and has written for a myriad of publications, including Scalawag, Jacobin, Current Affairs, The Nation, and is a frequent contributor to In These Times, which is why we're talking to her today. We're talking to her about her most recent piece about the importance of organizing people that don't have the same ideas as we do. Both David and I consider ourselves very left-wing, but if you consider yourself a unionist, which David and I do, it's important to organize people that are conservative, our sisters and brothers that have different ideas about different things than we do. We can't ostracize them because that's not how you build a strong union. It's very timely, given the given everything that we've seen, and an article came out yesterday, which was a partnership between ProPublica and AL.com, which was. I mean, this is just the perfect time to be having this conversation because everybody knows there was an Alabama man that died at the Capitol. His name was Kevin Greeson, and he was the vice president of the UFCW Local 88T at the Goodyear plant in Decatur. The plant is now owned by a Korean manufacturing firm. It is still union, actually. It's still the same union. UFCW Local 88T, they're still there. But he was the vice president at that union until 2006. He went to Obama's inauguration because he was such a fan of Obama, and he got sucked into a right-wing rabbit hole, and before the end of his life, he was talking about how Obama needs to be executed on Parler. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, and this is why we wanted to be on this station. Mindy, I'm not sure how much David told you, but this is a conservative station. This is where Sean Hannity got his start. The program before us is a financial management program that was talking about how corporate taxes are always paid by consumers and workers, never by corporate executives, which we know is a lie because the tax cuts on corporations went completely to corporate executives. We did not see a cut in prices, and we didn't see the raising wages from that. They got all the money there. So if tax increases all are paid by consumers and workers, then you would think that tax cuts are benefiting consumers and workers, but we know that that's not true, and listeners of this station know that that's not true because they know their lived reality. But this is why we wanted to be on the station, because these are the things that the folks that listen here that's what they're told. That's what they're told all the time. And so, Mindy, that was a long introduction, but I wanted to give you just a bit here at the beginning to give us an overview of your article. What was kind of the premise of your article, and what did you say there?
Yeah, thank you so much for
Hey, good
having
morning.
me on
And
today.
good morning. And
Hey,
yeah,
good
good
morning.
morning, and thanks for talking to us. Sorry,
Jacob.
I'm so excited about this conversation. I think it's so timely and relevant to what we're doing, and so I just got carried away. But thank you for talking to us, and good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. No, you don't apologize. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for your work. I guess I should just say why I wanted to sort of explore this topic, which is that, I'm a unionist. That's how I identify. That's I guess, like the root of my life and my work. And in 2015, when Trump was running, I was really bothered by all of the stories about like Joe the plumber kind of people.
Yeah.
Like reporters would go to these diners, find some working class people who went from Obama to Trump, and just kind of that was the whole story. There was no real why there, and most importantly, no real how do we fix this, or what caused this phenomenon, and how do we fix it? And so that was really, really what I wanted to explore. And so I spoke to a handful of union members who either had at one point been registered Democrats or who had voted for Democrats in the past, particularly Obama, and to understand what drew them to Trump and where they were at politically now. And honestly, it's daunting, the work that we have to do, but I do feel strongly, like you were saying, that this is our work to do. It is our job to organize our class. It is our responsibility to talk to people who might have views that we personally find disgusting. And, it's not to say that this isn't like a romanticization of working people. It's not, oh, you work for a wage, that makes you a good and pure person. It's that working people have the power to change our society because of the work that we do every day, because of our ability to not work. And so that's the basis on why we need to talk to working people, even if we disagree with them. And of course, there are going to be people who we're never going to be able to reach, whose sympathies lie with their boss, and those people need to be isolated and ignored. But for people who are in, the mushy middle, we need to bring them over to our side.
Yeah, and I'm less concerned about the people that we can't reach that are sympathetic with their boss, because I believe at some point you can win a lot of those people over, because eventually everybody sees that their boss is not on their side. At some point, the ones that I look at that I feel like we can't reach and probably shouldn't reach are those that are overtly racist or overtly fascist, and both of those terms get used a lot on the liberal talk shows and in the liberal media, and with liberals in general. And I think to its detriment, they probably get used too much. But I feel like those are the people that we don't want to bring in. But back to your article, you in the beginning you talked about the loss of electoral votes with the wages of under 50,000 per year, and most of us in the labor movement are making well in excess of 50,000 a year, unless you're one of the people working at UFCW at Kroger or something or other like that. So I feel like we've lost a lot more of those votes than what your article lays out, and I think for good reason. And I'm constantly Jacob is more of a liberal type, leans more towards electoral politics. I'm more of the anarchist type that leans more towards I hate both parties. But I can see, because I have seen it with my own two eyes in this state, how and the article that he laid out before, how the Democrat Party has left the working class behind. I mean, the only time they ever talk to us or do anything for us or say they're going to do anything for us is at election time. And so your article was well written, but my question would be, is it so much that we need to win the right wing or moderate faction of union members back, or is it the fact that the Democrat Party needs to bring the working class to reconsider the policies that they're making and move away from corporatist policies and more towards working class policies?
That's a great question. And I think it's both. And I think they relate to each other. So yeah, I think we need to be engaging our union brothers and sisters on issues in the workplace and outside of the workplace. You know, too many unions are not really having the conversations that they desperately need to be having with their members. And I understand why. You know, it's a question of priorities, putting out fires here and there, and, you know, things like Janus and other anti-union legislation that unions are dealing with. And, you know, there's a lot of competing priorities, but I do think organizing our coworkers is really important. And I also think,
we're going to bring you back on the other side of the break, and we'll let you finish that thought.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time, but the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maple, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtandj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
All workers deserve fair wages, affordable health care, and a retirement plan that enables them to retire with dignity. All workers deserve to have a say about the terms and conditions of their employment, not just the bosses. With the Machinists Union's over 600,000 members having our back, Local Lodge 44 in Decatur, Alabama has been serving workers' interests for over 20 years. Our members have the best health insurance in the area with zero deductible plans. We set the bar for pay in the area with over $40 an hour rates, consistently averaging the highest non-college degree jobs in North Alabama with some of the best retirement plans in the industry. We can do the same for you. Together, we remain united, raising our voices to ensure justice on the job and service in the community. The Machinists Union is a true Southern union founded in Atlanta in 1888. We have been serving members' needs for 132 years. The longevity of our union proves our dedication and loyalty to the working class. The Machinists Union isn't just for machinists. We represent workers in government, healthcare, auto workers, aerospace workers, transportation workers, the defense industry, and woodworking. Our members even build the iconic Harley-Davidson motorcycles. If you're ready to get serious about better benefits and wages, if you want to have a voice in your workplace with over 600,000 members to back you up, call or email us today at 256-286-3704 or organize at iamaw44.org.
Here in Huntsville, federal employees are an invaluable part of the nation's defense, offering unmatched expertise in engineering and technology and as stewards of taxpayer dollars. What we ask for in return is to be treated with fairness, dignity, and respect. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE Local 1858, is a union of working people looking out for each other, making sure that we're treated right. To inquire about joining or to learn more, call 256-876-4880.
Hey y'all, are you tired of hearing that the South is just a bunch of racist rednecks? Well, tune in to Dixieland of the Proletariat podcast. We talk about Southern working class history and current events through a leftist perspective. Join Nelson, Senior Telecommunications Director Tommy, Comrade Kate, former pig farmer Tyler, and Brother William, wherever you stream your podcast. And good Lord willing and the creek don't rise, we'll see y'all next time. It's Dixieland of the Proletariat, y'all.
WVNN.
Let's go! All right, folks, folks. Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. We've got a really exciting episode for you today. We are talking to Mindy Isser about her most recent article in These Times magazine about organizing Trump union voters. And David asked a really good question before we went into that break, and it was, there's a certain aspect of Trump union voters leaving the Democratic Party, which is a trend that may be sort of problematic. But on the flip side, there's certainly definitely a perception, and to a certain extent, that there's a bit of truth there, that the Democratic Party has left the union voters.
Not just the union voters, working class in general.
Right. And so you were kind of teasing that out as we went into the break. So I'll let you finish your thought there.
So I guess one thing I'll say is that we should be very clear that a huge chunk of working people do not vote at all. They don't vote for Democrats. They don't vote for Republicans. They are just completely out of the political sphere in that way, because what you're saying is that, working people don't see themselves represented. They don't feel heard. They don't feel like it will matter how they vote. And then also, similarly, Trump's base primarily is just the average Republican base, petty bouge, small business owners, rich people. That is the Trump base. And yes, he did get a portion of the working class. That's absolutely true. And we need to try to bring those people back. But it's also not like a working class revival for Trump. Most working class people don't vote at all. So that's the big thing. And then, thinking about the Democrats, I think there is a really big question of what the Democrats will do next. And personally, I think that the left wing of the party and even the center right wing of the party needs to be 100% focused on passing the PRO Act. That has to be the number one priority of every single Democrat right now, both because we desperately need to expand and strengthen the union movement. Like yesterday, we need to do it, but also just selfishly for the Democrats, because union members are more likely to vote. They're more likely to vote Democrat. If they want to have a majority and keep a majority, they're going to need more union members. And so just thinking, if I were Chuck Schumer or whoever, I guess not him, but, if I were a Democrat anywhere in the country that isn't, a definite Democratic stronghold, I would be thinking, wow, I need desperately to expand union density in my district so I can hold on to my seat. As selfish as that is, we want that too, because we want more workers in unions.
Right. And that's, and you mentioned the selfishness of that. And it's really interesting how, Republicans understand what you're saying. Republican office holders understand what you're saying, because they think of that selfish, how do I keep power once I get it thing. We can look at Scott Walker in Wisconsin. The first thing that he tried to do was he passed Act 10, which destroyed public sector unions in Wisconsin. And what do you know after that? Wisconsin goes to Trump. I mean, it's clear when Republican office holders get into power, they do things to structure society such that their power is more easily held onto. They destroy working class organizations. They destroy centers of working class power. And they do voter suppression. They make it harder to vote. Things like that. Gerrymandering. And Democrats just seem totally averse to just the most selfish calculus of how do I keep power. Like it's totally not in their analysis.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Republicans totally, deeply understand the power of unions in a way that Democrats oddly do not, because Democrats are so dependent on unions, and not just like contributions or resources, but union members to be literally soldiers on the ground for them. And we've seen that the special election in Georgia and obviously the presidential election, Unite Here specifically really threw down to get Biden in office and to win those seats in Georgia. And they couldn't have done that without them. And so, Democrats need to really take a note out of the Republican book and truly understand the power of unions, and also the transformative power, how they transform individual workers and make them political actors.
Yeah. And a good way of doing that, going back to your article, and folks, we had somebody on YouTube ask about the article. Could we link to the article? So we sent the link in YouTube. But if you're listening out on the radio, the article was in These Times, which is kind of a labor-oriented periodical that comes out. So you can find the article if you just go to Google and search Mindy Isser. And all of her articles in These Times would come up. But the talking points of the Democrat Party have been so poor. One of the things you pointed out in the article was that one of the union voters looked at the economy and said, well, the economy's doing great, so, and Trump is the reason behind this, so we want to try to keep him in power. And my question is, yes, the economy is doing great. We talk about it every week. The economy was doing great under Obama, too. I mean, the trajectory is basically the same under Trump as it was under Obama. We're seeing the exact same growth. The problem is we're not seeing the exact same growth in our wages and in our benefits and the things that we need to see happen. So... But the Republicans has got everybody convinced that if the economy is doing great, then everybody's wonderful. And yeah, Wall Street's wonderful. The CEOs are wonderful. But the working class people are taking it in the ass. And it's happened for the last 50 years. And the Democrats, other than the few progressives, Bernie, AOC, and a few others, are speaking about it. But everybody else is just kind of acting like everything's wonderful. You know what? I don't get it. You know, and I guess my question is, what can we do to force them or to make them realize there's votes to be had out there, but they've got to start talking to working class people.
Totally. I mean, I think it's a two-pronged thing. It's like we need desperately to raise class consciousness in this country because, like you're saying, people are like, oh, the economy is great. That means I'm great, even if there's like no food in your fridge or whatever. Yeah. And, you know, it's a horrible time right now. Obviously, we have not seen unemployment at this level since the Great Depression. COVID is, you know, destroying entire communities. I guess the one silver lining, if you can call it that, is that maybe it is in a way raising some class consciousness with our fellow workers, people who are told that they're essential employees, that they're heroes, healthcare heroes, grocery store heroes, but they're struggling to pay.
Huntsville's #1 news, talk, and weather station. WVNN Athens. WVNN FM Trinity. A Cumulus station. It's 10 o'clock.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. 10 states have activated the National Guard in a bid to protect their capital cities ahead of possible protests. Michigan is one of them, and Lansing City Council President Peter Spatafor says they're prepared for the worst.
Online chatter reported in the news, reported on social media, that indicates it might not be peaceful.
And law enforcement says the siege of the U.S. Capitol may be part of an increasing trend.
Far from a one-off event, a joint intelligence bulletin obtained by ABC News said the January 6th siege of the Capitol is very likely part of an ongoing trend. That trend involves domestic extremists exploiting lawful gatherings to pursue violence and criminal activity, and the bulletin said that very likely will increase throughout 2021. Targets include government officials, journalists, and minority groups, as extremists find Confederacy online and share what the bulletin called the false narrative of a stolen election. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, New York.
President-elect Joe Biden says he feels safe ahead of Wednesday's inauguration. President Trump will not attend. ABC's Rachel Scott has more on how he'll depart Washington.
The president now has 4 days left in office. He is still refusing to attend Joe Biden's inauguration. That is something that hasn't happened in more than 150 years. And sources tell us this morning the president wants his own farewell before Biden even takes the oath of office. He wants a red carpet, a military-style band waiting for him as he boards Air Force One for the final time.
The president-elect says he will improve vaccine distribution. Some governors are accusing the Trump administration of lying about the number of vaccines that would be available. Oregon Governor Kate Brown said,
"This failure by the Trump administration will unfortunately cause a 2-week delay in beginning vaccinations for seniors."
No winner in the Mega Millions lottery jackpot. That means the jackpot for Tuesday's drawing will be estimated at $850 million. You're listening to ABC News.
This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson Ricky LeBlanc, admitted in Massachusetts only. Sokolov Law LLC, Chestnut Hill, Mass. Paul J. Morgan, Winter Park, Florida. Greg Hobby, New Jersey. Michael Bro Gonzalez, admitted Louisiana. While this firm maintains joint responsibility, most cases of this type are referred to other attorneys for principal responsibility. Mesothelioma. If you know what mesothelioma is, you or someone you love has likely been affected by this devastating cancer. You may be entitled to compensation. Call Sokolov Law today. 1-800-578-2400. The only known cause of mesothelioma is asbestos exposure. Thousands of U.S. veterans and trade workers are at risk for the disease. Nearly $30 billion in court-ordered trusts has been set aside to pay money to asbestos victims. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call now. You may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Call for a free legal consultation at 1-800-578-2400. That's 1-800-578-2400. 1-800-578-2400.
Hey y'all, are you tired of hearing that the South is just a bunch of racist rednecks? Well, tune in to Dixieland of the Proletariat podcast. We talk about Southern working class history and current events through a leftist perspective. Join Nelson, Senior Telecommunications Director Tommy, Comrade Kate, former pig farmer Tyler, and Brother William, wherever you stream your podcast. And good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We'll see y'all next time. It's Dixieland of the Proletariat, y'all.
For up-to-the-minute news, log on to WVNN.com. Depend on it.
Charge upon the land. A population burned up, bled dry. The marginalized multiply and unite to fight. You ring of the bull, rather tearing you apart.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. On the line, we have Mindy Isser. She is a frequent contributor to In These Times. We're talking to her about her most recent article on organizing the Trump Union voter. And we were talking on the other side of the break, we were talking about how, it's really amazing because Trump has been able to convince people that the economy is doing so much better under him when all of the trends are basically the same. Wall Street CEOs, stock market is going up at almost exactly the same trend line as it did under Obama, and wages, benefit packages, and total compensation for working people has stayed the same just like it did under Obama. And so you've got a real kind of a real difference in success of messaging here. You've got these folks convinced that the economy is the stock market and the economy is doing good, and so I've got it great right now, when everything is the same as when Trump came into office, more or less.
Yeah. So, throwing it back to you, Mindy. Let me apologize because I am completely screwing up this timing on the show. The whole thing has just got me off this morning. But what is your opinion? In your opinion, does the party need to do to make these people realize, or to help these people realize? I say make them that everybody's struggling, and the economy is not tied to your paycheck. Certainly not tied to your paycheck.
Yeah, the party needs to make a decision. Just to put it really bluntly, if they want to be the party of workers or they want to be the party of bosses. And for a while, they've tried to straddle the line to be both. And you really can't. And so they need to make a choice. And I do think another part of this is revitalizing the union movement and pushing people to understand their status in our society, for lack of a better term. And that is what's so powerful about union organizing, because it's people having conversations that they normally just would not be having, and talking about their real problems and getting them to actually think about them and think about the cause of them and understand that they don't have to be embarrassed that they're struggling. And it's not a personal failure. It's a societal failure. And someone needs to do something about it. And if the Democrats want to be the champions of the working class, then they need to be the people to do something about that. And right now that means monthly checks to every single person in this country.
Yeah, and it brings it's something that I sent you on the email last night. It brings up the point of we have a good progressive portion of the party that pushes for these things, that does not want to see austerity measures, that doesn't start their campaign fundraisers off with union busting law firms, and they are constantly demonized, not just by the right, who we expect them to demonize them, but by the majority of their own party. And it's so frustrating, and it's kind of the point that I constantly make is I don't see how we can bring more people in so long as we're fighting the moderate Democrat, and we're also we're fighting the right wing, and then we're also fighting the moderates in the party. It's I don't know. It's frustrating, but how? I guess the question would be, we as a working class are apparently are not making our voices heard. What would be your opinion or your thoughts on how to bring this whole thing together? Because I really don't see a path. The path that I see right now is in 2022, the Republicans take over Congress again. In 2024, they have a supermajority with the presidency and Congress as well, because everybody's shooting themselves in their feet.
Yeah, no, that's a really depressing thought, and I think it's definitely possible if the Democrats don't wise up very soon. I also think, not to be like blindly optimistic or hopeful, is that the left wing of the party, it's really new. I mean, all of this happened since 2015, basically. I mean, since Bernie ran the first time. And time is very long, and like we have just not been in this fight electorally really very long at all. And we've had some really big successes, both federally, statewide, and municipally. And so I think we just need to keep doing what we're doing and get sharper and smarter and do it better. I mean, there's no easy way. There are no shortcuts, as Jane McAlevey says famously. And it's just about organizing and fighting and pushing. And I really do think, like, every unionist in this country should be singing in our heads, "The union makes us strong." That should be guiding us with everything we do. We should be talking to our coworkers, whether we're in unions or not. And even if we are in unions, yes, still talking to our coworkers and making sure we're getting people like Bernie Sanders and the squad in office. And that just means talking about work all the time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't mean to sound depressing, but I mean, I've lived for 50 years and I've seen the same thing happen. I tell Jacob all the time, I've went through numerous administrations, both Democrat and Republican, and we always end up with the same thing. The one positive that I see coming out of this cycle is the Painters Union, the IUPAT, organizing around the PRO Act like you spoke of earlier. And I think that, like you said, could reinvigorate not just the party, but the working class and the union movement, the labor movement in general. And this wasn't really covered in your article, but what are your thoughts on, because I've seen both sides. I've seen a lot of people say there's no chance in hell we're ever going to see this get through. Then I've seen some people say there's a good possibility. What do you think about that?
I think we have to try, and not only do we have to try, I mean, it has to be our number one priority. And I know there's a lot of competing priorities right now and a lot of things that people want to get done, but I really do believe that everything comes back to the union movement. We don't have other social goods without a strong working class movement. We don't have abortion rights without a strong working class movement. We don't have anything without that. And so that needs to be every single union's first priority, every single working class person's first priority. And we need to find a way to make it sexy and to talk about it and to get people excited about it. Because when you say the PRO Act, people are like, what's that? But it's like, you deserve a union. You deserve to be able to form a union. Most people don't know how hard it is to actually organize, especially in places like the South with right to work laws. And, I think there's nothing we can do but try. And I think we've learned a lot of lessons from trying to pass EFCA, or at least I hope we learned a lot of lessons from trying to pass EFCA, and we can use those lessons, and we can use the fact that unions were completely instrumental in defeating Trump this time into actually putting some pressure on these Democrats to make sure it passes.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that, you mentioned how important the PRO Act is for building working class power, which is more or less synonymous with building union power, and how that is important for everything else. Anything that is good for the working class, a more organized working class is going to help that, and so the PRO Act is going to help that. And I've talked to some people that are outside of the labor movement that are very progressive and very left-leaning about the PRO Act, and they're just they're just like, I just don't really care. Like, they're like, fine, I would like for it to pass. That's all well and good if the PRO Act passes, but it's like, they're like, I'm not writing to my senator about that. Like, I don't care. I want tuition forgiveness. I want debt-free college. I want health care. I want Medicare for all. I want those $2,000 checks. Things like that. How do we make people care? How do we make people outside of the labor movement care about the PRO Act?
Totally. I think that's a great question. You can tell them straight up, there is no debt-free college, there is no Green New Deal, there is no Medicare for all without a strong labor movement. And we have a opposite of that. We have a very weak labor movement, and we are going to need boots on the ground fighting for Medicare for all, tuition-free college, a Green New Deal. And we will not have the capacity to have those boots on the ground without millions more people in unions.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important to point out that unions are also, my International was one of the first ones on board with universal health care 30 years ago. So everybody that thinks that this is some kind of new pie in the sky program that dropped out of the air out of the benevolence of the progressive wing, they're idiots. We've been calling for universal health care since the 70s. We were one of the first ones to sign on to Medicare for all. And the talking points on the right has been the union doesn't want it because they've got better health care packages. And that's absolutely false. Absolutely false.
Right. The people that are really actually serious about this, they understand, the union members that are actually serious about this, they understand that having, healthcare takes up so much of negotiations. When it takes up so much of your compensation package. If you remove that from the negotiating table, if you remove that power from the boss, it makes it so much easier. Because one of the things that we've seen over and over, strike after strike, is we'll have articles and articles about people being worried because their healthcare is taken away during a strike a lot of times if they've got health care through their job, and that's a lot of power that a boss has over the employees. Mindy, have you got time for one more segment? I've got a couple more things I'd like to ask you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and I'll just kind of preview it on this side of the break, and then I'll let you answer on the other side. But we've been talking a lot about elections and a lot about legislation. I'm kind of interested in how do we about actually building power within a union, because actually a lot of folks who are in unions that are right wing, not only have they become more right wing as far as their electoral voting patterns, they have actually lost faith in the union, and they have and they are less enthusiastic about the union. And if they don't have a union in their workplace, they're more likely to say, like, we don't need it. We don't need a union in my workplace. And so how do you actually, how do you make people see what do you think about making people see the value in having a union in your workplace if they don't have one? And so we'll talk about that on the other side.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time, but the attorneys at Maples, Tucker & Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maple, Tucker & Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtandj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms. The Valley Labor Report is also supported by listeners like you. If you value the work that we are doing, injecting a different perspective into talk radio, and you have the means, consider signing up for a monthly donation on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report. Again, that's patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report to support our work and keep us on the air. If you're looking for contractors with lower than average EMR and TRIR, if you need to supplement a workforce at any level for any amount of time, if you need iron workers that come trained and certified at no extra cost, or if you need workers from superintendent down to general laborer and you're looking to start work on a project, or you're unhappy with your current contractor situation, you need to call my friend Jeb Miles with the Iron Workers Local 477. They only work with the best in the business, vetted contractors, and can do all kinds of jobs from roofing to steel and bridge erection, from welding to heavy rigging, from structural repairs to machinery alignment, and much more. They supply manpower on 4 of the 5 largest projects in North Alabama, so you know they're legit. If you need good quality, safe, efficient, diligent, and knowledgeable workers on your job, then you need the Iron Workers Local 477. Call Jeb Miles at 256-383-3334. That's 256-383-3334, or via email at local477@bellsouth.net, and make sure you tell them that you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report.
WVNN.
Lonely, dead, stuck, bleeding pig. Lonely, did shot, choose to dead.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. On the line, we have Mindy Isser. She is a contributing writer for In These Times magazine, talking to her about her most recent article about organizing Trump Union voters. One of the things that we talked about on the other side of the break was how will building union power build support for how will it build support for progressive policy goals? And I kind of roasted somebody that I know that's kind of left leaning, and because I had told them about the PRO Act and said, building union power is important for all of these things, and they're listening right now, and they texted me, and they said you still didn't explain how unions will actually fight for health care. Mindy, I asked you another question, or how building union power gets you health care or free college, things like that. I asked you a different question on the other side of the break, but if we could quickly address that, I think that would be useful, because we just said that unions have been supporting it, which is true since the 90s. The Machinists Union has been supporting universal health care since the 90s, but we didn't actually say, okay, how does actually having higher union density make health care, free college, things like that more possible?
Yeah, totally. It's a really good question. And I mean, it's not as simple as like more unions means Medicare for all tomorrow. If it was, that would be really awesome. But it's not. And to be clear, there are unions that are opposed to universal health care. There are union members that don't necessarily understand, Medicare for all. And we need to definitely have conversations with those members and push those unions to do the right thing. But I mean, the way it works is kind of simple. It's organizing regular working class people to take action in our society, which sounds simple, but actually it's hard. And it's hard because it works. And that's why politicians have made it nearly impossible to form unions, because they truly understand the power of them and the power of getting workers to understand that they have the right to be politically active. And when they come together with other workers, they can be politically active and they can make change. Additionally, obviously, when workers pool their resources with their unions and make political contributions through their unions, those unions can be very powerful and help swing elections, just like these billionaires and these right-wingers, except our money comes from ourselves and our work and from pooling it with each other. And so just the fact that working people can come together to take action and to pool their resources, that's powerful. And there really has been very few social gains made without the power of working people and the power of their organizations.
Yeah, and well, if I could just interject for a minute before we move on to the next topic, one of the things that most people don't realize, and I've brought it up on the show a couple of times, but without the labor movement, there would have not been a civil rights movement. I mean, the fact that UAW personally took money out of their pockets to bail Dr. King out of jail whenever, and
the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters provided transportation.
Exactly. And the fact that the people that are lobbying the Democrat Party right now are the healthcare industry. The only pushback to that is through the labor movement and
National Nurses United.
Yeah, and our PACs and our lobbyists. I mean, it's as simple as that. There is no other path to it other than through in my opinion, other than through the labor movement.
And you wouldn't have had Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security without the involvement of the labor movement. The labor movement was very instrumental in passing all of those things. And let's look at the union density rate when all of those things passed. We're looking at 30% union density rate at that time.
Because workers wanted it.
Because workers wanted it and workers were organized, and so workers got it. So I think that's a really good answer, Mindy. Thank you very much for that. And so the question that I asked before the break was, how do we get people to actually see the union as something that benefits them? Because there's a caller that we've had actually and he's a good brother. He's a member of the letter carriers, and he's a Trump supporter. Okay, he listens to this station. I hear him call into the station all the time when it's not us, and he's called into the station with us. He supports the union. He thinks the union is fine and good. He understands that the union has got him his pension and his health care. But he doesn't see that as like he doesn't vote on union rights, and he knows that Democrats are more supportive of unions than Republicans are. But he said, "Well, look at the stock market one time with us," and it's like how do you get people even that have a union in their workplace and that are supportive of it? But there are a lot of people that have a union in their workplace and they're not supportive of it, and then there are a lot of people that don't have a union in their workplace and they're not going to fight for it. So how do you get people to see that the labor movement, having a union, is like really the best thing that they can do for making their material circumstances better?
Yeah, great question. And it's hard. I mean, I will say that a lot of people do want to be in unions. A lot of people want to be in unions. Unions have their highest approval rating that I think they've had in decades. People want to be in unions. There are just so many barriers to actually doing it. And of course, you're always going to find a disgruntled union member or whoever, but I really think the way forward is through engagement and through struggle. It's like, yeah, people are like, yeah, I like my union, whatever, who cares? Well, right. You wouldn't think that if it were gone, because that means your pension's gone, and that means your health care is gone, and that means your health and safety program is gone. And so it's one of those things, like you treat your romantic partner like crap, they leave you, and then you're like, oh, damn, I should have been better to them because they were really, really great, and I'm never going to do better. I mean, it's a silly, analogy, but I think in a way it's true. People get so used to being in a union. They were never in their, it's not like they formed the union at their workplace. They came into a union job. They experience the pay and benefits. They thought, hey, yeah, this is good, but they don't actually know the difference. And so really hammering home that union difference, doing political education with members, showing them how hard it was to get the union. You know, my mom is a letter carrier. And so understanding, you know, the postal strike of 1970, I think, that actually transformed the postal service and created collective bargaining rights for letter carriers is huge to make sure people like that know what's going on, because you have to know what things were like before the union and how hard people had to fight for the union and had to go on strike and risk huge fines and risk their job forever just to make their workplace better. And for someone to do that for you decades in the future without knowing you is huge and such a sacrifice. And I think if more people understood the sacrifice that all workers in this country and around the world took to have a voice in their workplace, and for us to have a voice in our workplaces now, I think people would have a little more humility and, you know, take a second to think, wow, my union really does mean something. And just to show people how hard the rich and the politicians are fighting to take your union away from you. That should tell you something. Why do billionaires not want you to be able to be in a union? That should make you want to fight like hell to keep your union and to strengthen it.
And rightfully so. You pointed out earlier, and there that the pensions. You know, one of the things that the unions have brought forward was the pension. But the fact is, we in our local, we lost our pension 2 contracts ago. It was froze 2 contracts ago. It was sold off this last contract, and everybody wonders why are we losing these things? But they refuse to recognize that the loss of power, not just the loss of union density in our area, but also the loss of legislative power in our area. No one's the Republican Party wants us all on 401ks. You know, they don't want. The companies do not want to fund pensions. And so we've slowly lost them. But also to the point that you were making, that people have become bystanders in their union. You know, everyone needs to be involved. One of the reasons that I got so involved in this union, although I've been a union member since I was 16, I come into this union, and the people that were hired before me had just come off of a 91-day strike for my retiree health care. Not for theirs. They weren't losing theirs. They were losing new high retiree health care. And I looked at that and I thought, these people just sacrificed 3 months of their lives for me, somebody that they didn't even know. I've got to step up to the plate and be active in this union. So
that's powerful.
Yeah, it really is.
It's the most powerful, and I think truly personally transformative thing. I mean, we saw this in 2019 when UAW struck at GM. That was really about workers in the future and younger workers. It wasn't about people close to retiring. It was about their wages, their health care.
Yeah. Man, Mindy, I could talk to you for the rest of the program. I've really enjoyed this, but I'll go ahead and let you go. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much. This has been, I think, one of my favorite conversations. Where can people find you? Where can people find your work?
I guess on twitter.com. It's just my first and last name, and I have a website, but it's boring. But I also had a really nice time. Thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It was truly a pleasure. We were talking in the break that this has been one of our favorite interviews so far, not just because of who you are, but because of
what you said.
Yeah, what you said, and I think that's important to get out to all the listeners out there.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly why we wanted to be on the station. Both of us are left-wing folks. We thought about trying to go to the local NPR affiliate, but we were like, you know, we want to reach the conservative folks because that's where we are. I mean, we're in Alabama, and if we can't reach conservative people, then we're gonna lose. We're gonna lose. So, Mindy, thank you so much for talking to you. This is the Valley Labor Report. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison. This is News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. News starts now.
Security crackdown in the nation's capital, just days ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. The National Mall temporarily shut down. ABC's Kenneth Moten is in Washington.
From the White House to the Capitol, what we're seeing is barricades everywhere, especially downtown here in D.C. The U.S. Secret Service is running the show here, but the agency also says every state is pursuing leads of potential threats as it works to fortify Washington, D.C.
The FBI is now warning about the potential threat of improvised explosive devices being used in upcoming protests, saying the danger posed to law enforcement officers and the general public is, quote, substantial. Harsh words from the nation's governors after they thought their states were promised by the Trump administration more vaccine from a federal second-dose stockpile, only to learn on Friday that that stockpile is nearly empty. And scientists now expect the more contagious variant of the coronavirus from the UK could be the dominant version of the virus in the U.S. by March. Dave Packer, ABC News.
The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time, but the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maple, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtandj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms. People across Alabama are hurting. Elected leaders have bailed out corporations while sending only a one-time cash payment to working families despite record unemployment and a public health crisis. Hometown Action is fighting for working people across Alabama to build inclusive and sustainable small town and rural communities. Hometown Action demands that Congress pass a people's bailout that expands health care, sends cash payments to families, and invests in green jobs to restart the economy. Now is the time to act. Learn more at www.hometownaction.org. The Valley Labor Report is also supported by listeners like you. If you value the work that we are doing, injecting a different perspective into talk radio, and you have the means, consider signing up for a monthly donation on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report. Again, that's patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report to support our work and keep us on the air.
The Dale Jackson Show, a safe space for terrible people. Weekdays, 7 to 11 a.m., only on WVNN. WVNN.
Welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. We just finished our conversation with Mindy Isser about her most recent article in Indies Times Magazine about organizing Trump voters. Man, that was a good conversation. If you missed it, you should go subscribe to our YouTube channel. YouTube, we're at the Valley Labor Report on YouTube. You can just search the Valley Labor Report on YouTube and you'll be able to find us. You should subscribe to us there. And we're only one follower away from 1,000 followers on Twitter now. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Labor Reporters. You should do that. You should really subscribe to our YouTube channel though, because once we get that number up to 1,000, we can start looking at making some advertising on YouTube and bringing in some money, and that will help us stay on the air. So if you want to support the show, you don't want to support it, you don't have the financial means to support us, then subscribing to our YouTube channel is a really good way to
sharing our videos,
sharing the videos, stuff like that. That's a really good way to do that. But and seriously, if you're just tuning into the radio, make sure you go on YouTube and you find us and you go back and watch the early part of that stream. That this has been one of our favorite conversations with Mindy Isser. I think it was a really good conversation.
It was timely.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't planned. It's not like, as soon as this insanity happened the other week that we said, oh, we need to get her on. I mean, it just so happened that she wrote that article. I mean, she's probably been writing that article for some time. And, I read the article and I was like, wow, we need to have her on. But so it was very timely.
It was, very timely. Had lots of good things to say. So, everybody knows that there is an Amazon. There is a union election at the Amazon facility in Bessemer, Alabama, and we just got an update. So let's give everybody that update really quick. David, you're the expert on the
I mean, what do you want me to say? Well, give
us the update. The folks listening on the radio probably don't. They might not follow us on Twitter. What's the deal?
The update is that the details were finally hashed out, and looks like the good brothers and sisters down in Bessemer is going to have a vote for a union. I guess I don't know if it's disappointing. Honestly, we haven't talked with the organizer down there enough to know all of the details, so it's difficult to make an assessment on whether including all of these people is going to be detrimental or not. But the fact that they're agreed to it kind of gives me hope that that maybe it looks good. I mean, they're talking about engineers, they're talking about
anybody that works there.
Almost the truck drivers got left out, and hopefully if there's some Teamsters, I think it's 407, I can't remember the local number over in Sheffield, but if the Teamsters are listening, they need to be talking to these drivers, because we definitely need right now UPS is not fighting, but UPS is in competition with Amazon delivery drivers. So, we need to get them organized. There's no reason for them not to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, some of the specifics are that you can start mailing your ballot. If you work at the Amazon facility in Bessemer, you can start mailing it's a mail-in vote, so you can start mailing your ballot on February 8th. The vote will be counted and it has to be in by Monday, March 29th. The vote will be counted on Tuesday, March the 30th. Plenty of time to get their ballots in, and plenty of time for an anti-union campain by Amazon.
I mean, unfortunately, that's what you expect. That. Everybody knows that going in.
Right. Well, so they have now, there's 2.5 months until the election is concluded. And so that's 2.5 months for Amazon to start union busting. And that's a good segue into what I wanted to kind of spend really mostly the rest of the show on. We don't have that much time, so I think we'll probably be doing this for the rest of the show. But the first thing, they kind of kicked off their anti-union campaign, Amazon did, with a super boilerplate anti-union website. I mean, if you've ever seen anti-union talking points, they're all here, and none of them are interesting or unique or anything like that. It's
a package.
Yeah,
it is literally a package that you purchase.
I mean, you just change the pictures in the background, and this could be for any other place that's going through a union election that doesn't want a union. And so what we wanted to do, we felt, because this is so boilerplate, because this is so uninteresting and not unique, and this is going to happen at any union campaign, I thought that it would be beneficial for us to go through and read to you, the listener, what Amazon is telling these workers, and then tell you the truth or give you additional context, because what they do most of the time is they're not going to actually lie to you. They're going to package it in a way that makes it look bad, or they're going to package it in a way to make to turn you off of the union. And it's not necessarily a lie, but it's deceptive. It's very, very deceptive, and they're couching it in language that makes you predisposed to be anti-union. And so we felt like it would be good to go through these, and so that you, the listener, can hear them. And if you go through a union election in your lifetime, or if you have been listening to this show for a while, I know that at one point we had a caller who said, I'm not so sure about your Democrat talking points, but maybe I'm interested in forming a union.
Cut to the chase. Cut to the chase, Jacob.
Yeah, well, if you're out there listening, this is for you so that you know what the boss is going to tell you. Okay. Here's the first thing that they say on their website. If you go to their anti-union website, here is the first image and the first text that you're going to see. Hey, BHM1 doers. Why pay almost $500 in dues? We've got you covered with covered asterisks. We've got you covered asterisks with high wages, health care, vision, and dental benefits, as well as a safety committee and an appeals process. There's so much more you can do for your career and your family without paying dues.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the pronoun that they used to call the workers doers is absolutely correct.
That is correct.
They're the only ones doing anything, which means they are the ones that should be reaping the benefits of their labor.
That's perhaps doers was revealing maybe a bit. Maybe that's revealing a bit. They kind of overplayed their hand a bit there, perhaps, because they're the ones doing the work. So they should have the labor creates all wealth. All wealth should go to labor. They're the ones doing the work. They should reap the benefits of their labor. And there they go. Amazon just admitted it. They admitted that these folks are the doers. They're the ones making Amazon run. They're the ones that allow them at this facility, at this distribution facility, they're the ones that allow Amazon to do this 2-day shipping. 2-day shipping would be impossible without distribution facilities like the Bessemer facility.
But so let's go on.
Yeah, well, so
let's go on before you break off into the diatribe.
I know.
The one thing that the other thing that needs to be brought up is they say that they've got a safety committee. Is it a democratically elected safety committee, or is the safety committee just like every other position in every other company, and the company is going to pick who they want to be a lead person. The company is going to pick who they want to go on what shift. The company is going to pick everything.
And there was an asterisk there in who they've got covered with high wages, healthcare, vision, and dental benefits, because not everybody has those things. They have lots of part-time. In fact, most of the people working there are part-timers, and they do not have the $15 an hour minimum wage that Amazon has. That's only for full-time employees. They don't have dental and healthcare and all of these things. And so the average wage at this facility is $15.30 per hour, which, given the proportion of part-time workers at this facility, leaves a lot of people making less than that. And in fact, that's a lot of people. There are thousands of workers almost certainly there that make so little that they qualify for food stamps. Okay, so cut the BS about high wages. And like David mentioned, appeals process, safety committees, these are all picked by the employers. You don't have any say over it.
And can be changed at any moment.
Can be changed at any time. There is nothing holding them to this. If you get it in a contract, they are legally obligated to do it. So let's go on. The next one says, don't pay for what you don't know. Know the facts. An authorization card or online form is legally binding and may obligate you to pay monthly dues immediately from your paycheck. There are no free trials.
Yeah, I mean, don't pay for what you know. I would say don't say what you don't know. Mm-hmm. I mean, don't make statements that you don't know. Have they asked? Has there been any discussion with the union? I don't know. The point being, they make these blanket statements, and you said you asked me last night, is this a lie? No, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. What it is a stretch of the truth.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty close to a lie because here's what. We're in Alabama. The only people that are going to be voting in this election are Alabamians, and they're voting in an Alabama workplace, and we are a right-to-work state. So even if you have a union in your workplace, nobody in Minor David's workplace is obligated by law or by anything to pay dues.
Even if you sign an authorization card.
That's exactly exactly right. I mean, so there's under no circumstances is signing an authorization card actually going to make you immediately start paying dues. And you don't, even if you do sign an authorization card and you win a union, you're not going to start paying dues until you get that first contract.
Maybe it depends.
Yeah,
it depends. You know, here's the
places.
wonderful thing about that is the union, which
get say over it.
are the people that vote on it, or which are the people in the workplace, get to decide what they want to do. They determine that, not the company and not the international or national union that they're affiliating with.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't want to make paying dues sound like a bad thing. I just want to make sure that it's clear what the actual legal situation here is that in Alabama. But if you have a union in your workplace, and hopefully these good workers at the Bessemer Amazon facility will shortly, they should pay dues because, you know, like, we're adults here, and we know that nothing is free, and that things, you know, you've got to contribute to things, whether that be monetarily or with your time or with both. And to have good things, you've got to do your part. And so, you know, be an adult and recognize that, right?
Yeah, and it's not like these dues are going off into some wild blue yonder. I mean, these dues are used for the administration of your union, of your local.
And this is the way that it is at my union. I think this is pretty standard operating procedure. At every single monthly meeting, we have a treasurer's report, a financial report. We see where we started at the beginning of the month, where we ended at, what our income and expenditures were, and then we vote to ratify it.
And you vote whether you're going to spend it. I mean,
and we vote on the budget.
Not one penny gets spent without a majority rule of the people there.
Exactly.
They determine how they want their money spent.
Yeah. Here's the next one. Be a doer, not a doer. Be a doer, not a dues payer. If you're paying dues, it will be restrictive, meaning it won't be as easy to be as helpful and social with each other. So be a doer, stay friendly, and get things done versus paying dues.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Whether you realize it or not, if you're not in a union, you're already paying dues.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying dues to the company through lost wages, through lost benefits that you could have. So the fact that anybody says be a doer or not a do, I mean, it's insanity. Everything I just said it. Everything that we make is ours.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
And you know, you part of this says if you're in a union, you can't be as helpful and social with each other. So David, you have a couple of stories that I want you to run through really quick on the other side of the break, because saying that if you're a dues payer, if you're in a union, you're not going to be as helpful or social with each other, that's a bunch of baloney. Like, that's so silly. Under what circumstances would that be the case? I don't know. We're going to talk about it on the other side of the break. Stay tuned.
You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
The Valley Labor Report is also supported by listeners like you. If you value the work that we are doing, the Valley Labor Report is also supported by listeners like you. If you value the work that we are doing, injecting a different perspective into talk radio, and you have the means, consider signing up for a monthly donation on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report. Again, that's patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report to support our work and keep us on the air. People across Alabama are hurting. Elected leaders have bailed out corporations while sending only a one-time cash payment to working families despite record unemployment and a public health crisis. Hometown Action is fighting for working people across Alabama to build inclusive and sustainable small town and rural communities. Hometown Action demands that Congress pass a people's bailout that expands health care, sends cash payments to families, and invests in green jobs to restart the economy. Now is the time to act. Learn more at www.hometownaction.org. The American Federation of Government Employees, AFGE Local 1858, believes all workers are entitled to fairness, dignity, and respect. AFGE also knows that the best way to guarantee proper treatment is for workers to stand together, united, looking out for each other. In AFGE, we fight for workers every day to ensure a workplace that is safe and free from harassment. If you're a federal employee and want to be a part of this union to protect yourself and your fellow workers, call 256-876-4880. The attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have stood with the working people of Alabama for over 40 years, providing skilled legal representation for your workplace injury claims. When you are injured on the job, it can be a scary time, but the attorneys at Maples, Tucker, and Jacobs have the experience to guide you through the process to make sure that you and your family are properly taken care of and your rights are protected. If you need help, call the attorneys at Maple, Tucker, and Jacobs at 855-617-9333 or visit online at www.mtandj.com. No representation is made that the quality of legal services is greater than the quality of legal services provided by other law firms.
WVNN. Depend on it.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison, here with my co-host David Story. We are moving right along through this anti-union propaganda that Amazon's put out on their website. And so we were talking about how one of their things said that being a union member means that, quote, it won't be as easy to be as helpful and social with each other. And so, David, I talked to you. I told you the thing that I wanted you to mention.
You wrote the script for me in the commercial. I mean, it's insanity. You know, there's a reason why we call each other brothers and sisters, is because, you know, we look at each other as family. You know, I talked about right in the last segment with Mindy about how the reason that I got involved is because of the fight that the people that came before me made for me. And the reason that we are able to be on this air is because of folks that have fought for us before us. My father being one, Joe out there listening on the radio with him, fighting, you know, for future generations, but also the fact that, you know, what you mentioned, we've got people that it changes your life completely. The fact that you have good health care, that you don't have to worry about your children, your spouse, or yourself getting sick and not being able to afford to pay for, or to go bankrupt paying for their medical. The fact that you've got good retirement, the fact that you got good wages. And the brother stood up at the conference, you know, and basically broke down, you know, started crying because he was that you know, emotionally attached to what had been done for him, and not done because we wanted to gain something, you know, not done because we're hiring a anti-union firm so we can continue making profits. It was done because we actually care about the workers that are around us every day.
Yeah. I mean, that's powerful, you know, like a grown man standing up in a convention, basically testifying in front of mostly men, and he was so moved by the love and respect and solidarity that those sisters and brothers had showed him that he was moved to tears. I mean, that's important, and Amazon is telling us that being a union member means that you won't be as social or helpful with one another. I mean, what a load of baloney.
Well, but to their point, you're probably not going to be as social with Jeff Bezos whenever he walks through the plant, because you recognize that he is exploiting you. Right. He is exploiting your labor, and he's flying around to Barbados and to, you know, every country that he wants off the backs of these working people.
Yeah. But you'll be more social and more friendly with the other people who actually do the work. Yeah. And that's what's important.
Yeah.
Here's the next thing they say. Do's mean don'ts. Don't buy that dinner. Don't buy those school supplies. Don't buy those gifts because you won't have that almost $500 you paid in dues. Why not save that money and get the books, gifts, and things you want? Do it without dues. So here's the thing here. They're throwing out $500. That's $500 per year almost. So I don't know exactly what the RWDSU, what their dues look like, but that $500 number, they get that from dues at other RWDSU plants in Alabama.
Well, I can tell you exactly what their dues look like, and it's something that we talk about consistently. Their dues will look like what the workers want them to look like, because the workers, that form that union, those workers in Bessemer, Alabama, will determine collectively and democratically exactly how much they want to pay in dues.
That's exactly right. And you know, even if it is $500 a day, a year, let's say it's $500 a year, that's like $40 a month. That's like a couple of streaming services, okay? It's doable. And the real question is, what do you get from it? The answer is that obviously getting a union in place doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, but we can look at the data and we can see that union members consistently make 10, 20, 30% more than non-union members, non-union workers in similar instances. You can look at the stats, you can look at the safety, you can look at the health care, the retirements. All of it is better.
Here's a perfect example. I was just talking to a member about this last week in reference to, dadgummit, what was her name? Taylor Barnes. You know, she was asking to help find some workers at Lockheed Martin in Cortland. Lockheed Martin does wiring harnesses for missiles. We've got a department in our plant that does wiring harnesses for rockets, for our rockets. They make it almost to the T double, not 10%, not 20%, 100% more than what the exact same workers at Lockheed doing the exact same job less than 20 miles down the road, double. You're talking about going from $20 an hour to $40 an hour.
Yeah.
That is the difference.
Yeah. And there you go. And look, I don't know but it's going to be up to these workers down in Bessemer to negotiate on their own behalf, because they are going to be the union when they have that. But we can look to see what other union workers have done, and we can say that it is extremely likely that they will come out not only ahead of where they are, but significantly ahead of where they are. Here's another one. Will I have to go on strike? Here's some language here. If a union calls a strike, that's interesting wording, everyone is expected to go on a strike, even if you need to keep working. Unions try to prevent people from working during a strike, even though you are legally allowed to do so. Unions may even punish employees who try to continue to work. If a union calls a strike, now that's an interesting, it's correct if a union calls a strike, but who is the union? The union is the workers. How are strikes authorized? Strikes are authorized by a democratic vote of the membership. Union bosses in no union across this great nation does a union boss, quote unquote, does the president of a union who is democratically elected by the membership, in no union does a union president in the international tell workers to go on strike in a facility. People who are bargaining under a certain contract vote on whether or not they want to go on strike, whether or not they believe that it is necessary to secure better pay and working conditions.
And it is so rare these days. I mean, if you look back historically, the strikes were extremely, extremely dense in the 70s. When we've seen great benefits as well, but it's so rare these days to go on strike. I mean, it's a scare tactic. It's the same. It's the exact same scare tactics they use in every organizing drive across the nation.
But sometimes they do go on strike, and it would be good if more people went on strike, because we need to assert our power more often, and we could get more if we went on strike. But the big thing is that if you go on strike, it's because you and your fellow workers, your sisters and brothers on the job, decided that that was the best thing to do for you and your families, and you decided to risk your livelihood for each other and for a better future. Okay? That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Here's the rest of it is
lining it down.
Yeah, the last thing that I'll say is the rest of it is more or less the union can't guarantee you higher wages or better working conditions. Blah 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 blah.
Nope, they can't.
That's true.
I mean, they can't. That is absolutely true.
That's true.
But if you look at data, and that's kind of what we always try to go back to, is data driven.
Facts and logic.
Yeah, screw your feelings.
Yeah, facts don't care about your feelings. If we go by facts and logic, we can look at the data and see what other union workers have been able to do for themselves and their fellow workers, their sisters and brothers on the job, and it's better, okay? It's just better. Facts don't care about your feelings. We're just laying it out for you. Facts and logic.
We make double. We make double what the exact same workers doing the exact same work 20 miles from us, working for the exact same company. Lockheed is 50% owner in our company. We're working for the exact same company. If the company was so benevolent, you would think they'd be willing to pay those workers the same.
But they don't, because they don't have a union. Folks, this has been the Valley Labor Report. We will see you next week.
WVNN Athens, WVNN FM Trinity, a Cumulus station. It's 11 o'clock. News starts now.